Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, welcome back to my video. I'm Hassan Zainuri. In this video, I'd like to talk to you and also inform you about the new topic for public speaking course. It is about developing topics for your speech. Previously, you have already learned on my video about listening in public speaking settings. You learn how to become an active listener. Now, I'm going to inform you about this topic so that you will be able to be a good public speaker by knowing how to develop your topics for your speech. Without further ado, let's get started. So you can see here that it is Chapter 4 about developing topics for your speech. You should be aware that all aspects of your speech are constantly going to change as you move toward actually giving your speech. The exact wording of your central idea may change and you can experiment with different versions for effectiveness. However, your specific purpose statement should not change unless there is a really good reason. And in some cases, your instructor will either discourage that, forbid it, or expect to be notified. Okay, in this chapter, the followings are the learning objectives. You will distinguish between the specific purpose, central idea, and main points of a speech. Then you will differentiate between a speech to inform, persuade, and inspire or entertain. And after that, you will write a specific purpose statement. You will write a thesis or central idea statement. You will distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable specific purpose and central idea statements. And of course, you will compose appropriate specific purpose and central idea statements for innovative, persuasive, and inspirational or entertaining speeches. So, I would like to divide this video into 4 sections. The first one, it is about getting started with your speech topic. Second, formulating a specific purpose statement. Third, formulating a central idea statement. And the last one is problems to avoid with specific purpose and central idea statements. Let's get started. We have looked at many practical and theoretical aspects of public speaking as a mode of communication and as an art form so far. In this chapter, we'll get down to business with putting your speech together. When we get to the point of having made a speech, we often start thinking about topics. That's understandable, but before we go any further, let's retrain our thoughts to think about purpose as well. There are some advantages of examining both the objective and the issue at the same time. This will help you keep your speech to a manageable length and make it more audience-centered. In addition, you will be able to make strategic decisions about other aspects of the speech, such as organization, supporting evidence, and visual aids. In the past, speeches were thought to serve one of 3 purposes: to inform, to persuade, to be honest. Different words are used to the purpose of the third type of speech, that is to inspire, to amuse, please, or to entertain. We'll just use the term inspire as a general term here. These broad objectives are commonly referred to as a speech general purpose. Because you are attempting to inform, persuade, or entertain or inspire your audience in general, regardless of the topic. You could think of them as appealing to the audience understanding. It is for informative. Will or action, it is for persuasive. And emotion or pleasure, it is for pleasant. Two basic questions you should consider for beginning your speech are: first, what value, connection, or interest does my proposed topic have for the audience? What needs do they meet? And second, why would the audience consider me, the speaker, a credible source on this purpose or a topic? We suggest that these two questions to be in your mind as you develop your speech. You should answer them directly or indirectly in your speech. If your audience is unfamiliar with your topic, for instance, you would want to address the first one early in the speech. If your audience does not know anything about you, you should mention in appropriate way your background in the subject area. Now that you know your purpose to inform, to persuade, or to entertain, you can start to move in the direction of the specific purpose. A specific purpose statement builds on your general purpose, such as to inform, and makes it more specific, such as the name suggests. So, if your first speech is an informative speech, your general purpose will be to inform your audience about a very specific realm of knowledge. For example, the history of NASA shuttle program, the history of Java, the history of Prophet Muhammad, and so on and so forth. Then, we are going to discuss 3 things for specific purpose statement. The first one is you. What do you want to do? An old adage states, write about what you know. In many ways, that is a great place to start with creating a speech. Although you will need to consult other sources as well if you start with ideas that reflect your interest and passions. That passion and commitment will come across in your speech and will give you more credibility in the eyes of your audience and make your speech more interesting. Second, the audience. Of course, what you like or dislike may differ dramatically from how your audience feels, so keep that in mind, that which leads us to the next contributing factors. You must determine if and how the topic has practical values or interests for others after you have examined what you know and are passionate about. It is impossible that it is a topic that the audience isn't immediately interested in, but what they need to be aware of for their own good. Then you must find an angle and approach that will allow them to see the value of what you are saying and listen to you. The more you know about your target audience, the more likely you are succeed. Good speakers are very knowledgeable about their audience. Next, we are going to talk about putting a specific purpose statement together. Keeping these 3 inputs in mind, you can begin to write a specific purpose statement, which will be the foundation for everything you say in the speech and a guide for what you do not say. This formula will help you in putting together your specific purpose statement. First, specific communication word. Inform, explain, demonstrate, describe, divine, persuade, convince, prove, argue. That's the words. Then, the next one is target audience. For example, my classmates, the members of the social work club, my co-workers, my teachers, my lecturers, and etc. The last one is the content. For example, how to bake brownies. That makes are better than pieces, and etc. Each of these parts of the specific purpose is important. The first two parts make sure you are clear on your purpose and know specifically who will be hearing your message. However, we will focus on the last part here. First, the content. The content part of the specific purpose statement must first be singular and focused. The word "and" should not be used in the specific purpose statement because it gives the impression that you have two purposes and two topics. Obviously, the content of the specific purpose statement must be very narrowly defined and well specific. One common mistake made by new speakers is trying to cover too much materials. Instead of just talking about true or false, instead of just talking about the or all, they tend to talk about the entire alphabet from A to Z, and it is on a given topic. This is due to a focus on the topic rather than the purpose, as well as a failure to consider the audience and context. Second, the content must match the focus of the proposed word. A common error is to match an informative purpose with a persuasive content, clause, or phrase. To explain to my classmates why term life insurance is a better option than whole life insurance policies is a good example of a problematic here. The third, the specific purpose statement should be relevant to the audience. What impacts does the purpose and the topic have on their lives, wallets, relationships, careers, and other aspects of their lives? It is also a good idea to think about what your audience to take away from your presentation. What you want them to know, be able to do, think about, act on, or respond to your topic. It is your ultimate outcome or result. Let's revisit an earlier example. To explain to my classmates the history of NASA would be too far much material and the audience may be unsure of its relevance. A more specific one, such as to inform my classmates about the decline of the shuttle program, would be more manageable and closer to their experience. Alright, next, here are a few examples of specific purpose statements to get you started. Take note of how they adhere to the standards of being singular, focused, relevant, and consistent. Despite everything you have learned so far about specific purpose statements, the next thing you'll learn is that you should never begin your speech by stating your specific purpose to the audience. It is, in a sense, just you and your instructor. It is similar to a sticky note you might tack to your mirror or refrigerator to remind you to stay on the track. For the instructor, it is a way for him or her to know you are accomplishing both the assignment and what you set out to do. Don't fall into a trap of saying it at the start of your speech. It will seem awkward and repetitive. While you will not actually say your specific purpose statement during your speech, you need to clearly state what your focus and main points are going to be. The statement that reveals your main point is commonly known as the central idea statement, or just the central idea. Now, at this point, we need to make a point about terminology. I would call the central idea statement as the thesis or the thesis statement. Probably your English instructor probably uses that term in your essay writing as well. Another instructor may call it the main idea statement. However, all of these are basically synonymous and you should not let the terms confuse you, but you should use the term your instructor uses. So let's use central idea or a thesis or the main idea. That's similar. That said, is the central idea statement the very same thing as the thesis sentence in an essay? Yes. In that both are letting the audience know without a doubt your topic, purpose, direction, angle, and or point of view. No, in that the rules for writing a thesis or central idea statement in a speech are not as strict as an essay. For example, it is acceptable in a speech to announce the topic and purpose, although it is usually not the most artful or effective way to do it. You may say, in this speech, I will try to motivate you to join me next month as a volunteer at the education fair. That would be followed by a preview of statement of what the speech arguments or reasons for participation will be, such as, you will see that it will benefit the community, participants, and you individually. However, another approach is to capsulize the proposed topic, approach, and preview in one succinct statement. Probably it will be like this. Your involvement as a volunteer in next month's education fair will be a rewarding experience that will benefit the community, the participants, and you personally. This last version is really better approach. Next, we are going to talk about specific purpose and central idea statements definition. Here are some examples of pairs of specific purpose statements and central idea statements. This is the example. To explain to my classmates the benefits of participating in a semester-long internship. And then the central idea statement is spending a semester working for a local company or non-profit will have great benefit now and in the future. You will gain experience for your resume, learn about your field, and make connection with employees. Here are some examples of pairs of specific purpose statements and central idea statements. To demonstrate to my audience the correct method for cleaning a computer. This is the specific purpose. How about central idea? Your computer keyboard needs a regular cleaning to function well, and you can achieve that in 4 easy ways. Here is another example. Specific purpose. To explain to my classmates the effects of losing a pet on the elderly. The central idea is when elderly persons lose their animals' companions, they can experience serious psychological, emotional, and physical effects. Okay, now we are going to talk about the problems to avoid in public speaking, especially in developing your topics of your speech. The first problems many students have in writing their specific purpose statement has already been mentioned. It is about specific purpose statements sometimes try to cover too much and are too broad. For example, to explain to my classmates the history of ballet. Aside from the fact that this subject may be difficult for everyone in your audience to relate to, it is enough for the for a 3-hour lecture, maybe even a whole course. So you will probably find that your first attempt at a specific purpose statement will need refining. These examples are much more specific and much more manageable given the limited amount of the time you will have. Let's say, to explain to my classmates the difference between Russian and French ballet. That's better. Or another example, to explain to my examples the origin of the ballet dancer's clothing. That's much better. The second problem with specific purpose statements is the opposite of being too broad, in that some specific purpose statements are so focused that they might only be appropriate for people who are already extremely interested in the topic or experts in a field. For example, to inform my classmates of the life cycle of a new species of lima bean. Probably this topic is for botanists or agriculturalists. Then the third problem happens when the communication verb in the specific purpose does not match the content. For example, persuasive content is paired with to inform or to explain. If you resort to words like why in the thesis, it is probably persuasive. For example, to inform our audience why capital punishment is unconstitutional. This cannot be informative since it is taking a side. Another example, to persuade my audience about 3 types of individual retirement accounts. This is not persuading the audience of anything, it is just informing. Another example, to inform my classmates that Universal Studios is a better theme park than Disneyland Park. This is clearly an opinion, hence persuasive. Then, the fourth problem exists when the content part of the specific purpose statement has 2 parts and thus uses and. A good speech follows the KISS rule. It stands for keep it simple, speaker. Let me repeat once again. Keep it simple, speaker. Okay. One specific purpose is enough. These examples cover 2 different topics. To explain to my audience how to swing a golf club and choose the best golf shoes. To persuade my classmates to be involved in Special Olympics and vote to fund better classes for the intellectually disabled. Okay, to fix this problem, you will need select one of the topics in this example and speak on just that. This is a better example. To explain to my audience how to swing a golf club, or to explain to my audience how to choose a best golf shoes. Okay. The fifth problem with both specific purpose and central idea statement is related to formatting. These are some general guidelines that need to be followed in terms of how you write out these elements of your speech. First, do not write either statement as a question. Second, always use complete sentences for central idea statements and infinitive phrases. For example, that is, to inform, and etc. for the specific purpose statement. Next, only use concrete language and avoid subjective terms or jargon or acronyms. And finally, the sixth problem occurs when the speech just gets off track of the specific purpose statement. In that, It starts well but veers in another direction. This problem relates to the challenge of developing coherent main points, what might be called the Roman numeral points of the speech. The specific purpose usually determines the main points and the relevant structure. Now, my students, this is the conclusion of what you have already learned so far in this video. You should be aware that all aspects of your speech are constantly going to change as you move toward actually giving your speech. The exact wording of your central idea may change, and you can experiment with different versions for effectiveness. However, your specific purpose statement should not change unless there is a really good reason. And in some cases, your instructor will either discourage that, forbid it, or expect to be notified. There are many aspects to consider in the seemingly simple task of writing a specific purpose statement and its companion, the central idea statement. Writing good ones at the beginning will save you some trouble later in the speech preparation process. Okay, my students, now this is the case studies in specific purpose and central idea statements. What you need to do is to critique, Mitch brainstorm topics based on what you know. What should he do? Can you come up with a good starting specific purpose? Okay, so you need to read this case study and try to identify the topics and try to critically think about what Mitch should do. And please give your opinion about a good starting specific purpose. Alright, my students, this is the end of this video. The last thing that I would like to suggest you is that you need to be aware of all class instruction. If you don't know about anything in this video, just ask me. Then be flexible. You may need revisions as your practice. Probably you have practiced your speech, but you need to revise it, and it's normal. Be flexible. Then please message me if you have any question. That concludes chapter 4. I think that's all, my students. I hope you enjoyed this video, and this video will be very useful for you in order to be a better public speaker. Okay, I think that's all. I hope you can learn something from this video, and see you on the next video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.